Hi, my name's Kevin. I'm the Atypical Cripple, and for the first time on camera.
I am Sardine.
So there you go. Face reveal right here.
Yeah. I was kind of showing my face a bit on my own channel, and I thought, well, I might as well just do it here too.
All right, well, A1 for bravery there, dude. I like this.
Yeah, well, I'm usually armed, so just keep that in mind, haters.
Okay. All right, so name and address. No.
No. I'm not looking for that kind of trouble.
All right, so let's do a full screen of what's on the second screen real quick and talk about Jordan Peterson, A Message to the Churches. Now we watched it.
Yep.
What's your summary impression? Go back to the other scene real quick.
Oh, sure. Well, I thought, like most things with Jordan Peterson, he made some good points. I don't agree with everything he said, and I think it has varying applicability to different kinds of churches. But yeah, I mean, he's usually he has some prescient points.
So what we've done is you got a quotation, and then we have it stopped at a certain pause point in the video.
Yep.
And so so this is like 2 points that we agree are important. So why don't you read your quote?
Sure.
Which is about probably 3 or 4 minutes into the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll put the video in the description as well, so you can look to yourself.
Yeah, it's only a 10-minute video. It definitely would be a good watch.
All right. So what's the quote, sir?
So he says, this is partly paraphrased. The church has a responsibility to young men and to everyone to remind them that young men, in particular, have a woman to find, a garden to walk in, a family to nurture, an ark to build, a land to conquer, a ladder to heaven to build, and the utter terrible catastrophe of life to face stoically in truth devoted to love and without fear. That list was verbatim of what he said, I think.
So that's quite a mouthful. And I would say not quite the target that the church is historically focused on, but nonetheless is a benefit of seeking salvation and learning to live more ethically and morally along, it's not just all dietary and sexual purity laws. But nonetheless, I think he's coming at it from the point of view that his view of the West is that the West is unique because it was born out of the merge of Roman and Greek political philosophy and Judaic and then Christian moral standards.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why we have the Enlightenment is that we believe that the world is knowable. There's such a thing as an objective thing. That it's not all a dream in our head and we're a brain in a vat.
The truth.
Does that make sense?
The logos, the truth, is a reality
Right.
outside of our own perceptions or whatever.
Yeah. In that, well, it's not just that it's outside of our perceptions, it's that
That there is
But
ultimate
there is an
receiver.
objective reality. The universe is knowable because God
Right.
created a sense of order.
Right.
It's not just chaos, postmodernism.
My truth, your truth, everyone's truth.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the points that he brought out are things you definitely find in the Bible.
Yes.
Um,
But here's the thing. So how much of the focus of the church should be on family supportive activities or
well, his
encouraging young people to reproduce?
well his this point of this video is he's saying the church needs to focus more on young men, and that care of families and everything else that will follow from that.
Right. And what do young men want to do in their lives? Now, I used to be a young man, so. But you're a little closer to the fountain of youth, my friend. So I'll let you. I want to know what is the not the ideal type of man, but what are the essential characteristics of a young man that where should his head be?
Well, there's just a couple thoughts along those lines
Okay.
that come to mind. One, like going from this list, he says a woman to find, right? So the Bible talks about the gift of singleness, but my rule or my understanding is if you desire marriage, you don't have the gift of singleness, basically.
Well, I gotta hold you here. The gift of singleness.
Yeah, Paul talks about it.
I think he says I would prefer to be single, as I am singularly focused on the
Right.
on Christ. However, that doesn't that creates a professional class, like missionary, long distance missionaries and things like that. I think we get stuck sometimes in Christianity where to be really focused on the gospel, I gotta devoid myself of worldly things, including family, friends, and go hard after the gospel. I mean, I certainly saw that going through college. People out there saying, like, I want to go out and die for the gospel.
Yeah.
And then, a few months later, you see them at the bar chatting up a girl, which is obviously mating ritual stuff. And you're like, oh, what was, so it's one of those things where I think we got to recognize young men want to establish themselves. They want to be people look up to and have responsibility. And that requires character, which the Bible also talks about a lot,
Yep.
but in regards to obedience to God, not to gain prestige and status and wealth. But that also follows. Okay? You agree?
Yeah, it sounded about right.
Alright, so maybe I don't understand.
Well, in the church, I don't know if the words "the gift of singleness" appear in Scripture. Maybe they don't. But there's talk. People talk about that.
Yes.
And I think that it's kind of the idea that it's this common thing that people should stay single or something. I think that's completely wrong. I think that most people, or like 99.999% of people, are meant to be married.
That is true.
Maybe there's that extremely rare case where they're just devoted to what their ministry is, and they
Well,
aren't going to have a wife. But,
in 1 Corinthians,
right.
I think it's 5 or 6, that it talks about being single, being married, and that's kind of where that comes from. It's
Right.
like, does a man sin if he doesn't marry his betrothed? Because betrothal back then was kind of arranged marriage. Because going back to what we talked about earlier in the video
Mm-hmm.
about the anthropological view of marriage, about lineage
Mm-hmm.
and property transfer. So if the guy says, you know what, I'm going to do my family duty, but Paul later says that you don't want to be unequally yoked.
Right.
So therefore, it's like, so a son might go to his dad and mom and say, hey, I know you wanted me to marry the local head leader over there, but I'm a Christian now, and so I gotta marry. Can you like pull out of the pool of the church
Mm-hmm.
instead of going for status and wealth and prestige? Can we go this route? And in that way, that shows a supremacy of common value,
Yeah.
and that you're raising children not to be property of the state, but rather property of God. And you're choosing to uphold his values over the Roman government. And so, you know, the earlier Sardine come in, and I was watching a Jordan Peterson video on his video on transitioning of children, and how he talks about butchers and liars.
Yeah.
Doctors and surgeons getting together going, ooh, look, people to call.
Yeah.
And when you bring this down to the minor age level, who's responsible here?
Yeah. Parents.
Yes. And we're trying to break up the family.
Mm-hmm.
Where here he's like, the family is very much a cultural phenomenon that the church holds dear,
Mm-hmm.
but not supreme. Because supreme is salvation.
Right. Yeah.
And this is how we maintain ourselves. And we bring people in, and we birth them into the kingdom. And out of that, there are two ways of bringing people into the kingdom. And the question is, does the church want young men or people that go out and get married, and then they're like, oh crap, what do I do now? Oh, maybe I ought to go to church and figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, why not get a head start?
Yeah.
Why not get to a point where it's like, you got young men, you got young women. That's,
Up.
yeah.
And
Oh,
here's
go
a
ahead.
message to those young
Oh, I
men.
didn't.
Did you mean
skeptical
to
about
do
such
that,
things.
sir?
Nope.
What else do you have?
This has gone haywire.
All right.
We've gone haywire. Okay.
All right. So,
Well, I don't know if you wanted to.
so
talk.
I think it's important. I think the church has a priority for family, but should it be the highest? I don't know. I think we should learn to roll with punches.
Okay. In what sense?
Well, I think there are a lot of churches out there talking about family.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's also a lot of churches talking about global warming, social justice, or just only gospel. And so you got people on both sides of the extremes not holding the middle. And I think it's important to bring up parts of the Bible that bring up family relationship and what should be done. I think leadership of the father, where Abraham tried, when he was asked by God to sacrifice Isaac. I think that I'd like to see that teased out.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
About what?
Did I lose you?
Maybe a little bit.
All right. I'm sorry. Did I go off on a rabbit trail? I mean, I thought I was being cogent. I'm sorry.
I might have zoned out. I have that tendency.
Okay, that's fine. So, so where do we go from here? Do you want? You had some thoughts. So
yeah, I mean,
that's where I thought you were going to come in with your.
Yeah, I was looking at this, the list that I wrote down.
Go ahead.
We kind of talked about a woman to find, a garden to walk in. So there's what does he mean by garden to walk in?
Personal property.
Personal property, yeah.
So
a place that you tend and care for, and
right. Because here's the thing: what's the American dream? The American dream is to have something you can call your own.
Yeah.
If you're renting and eating Z-bugs, you don't care.
Right. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Right.
No, you won't.
Well, I saw it all the time in Section 8.
Yeah.
Housing or dorm housing. People,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't own it, you're not going to care about it that much.
Right. So if you're going to own something, is it going to be something modest? Are your kids going to go in with something obviously from Goodwill? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But on the other hand, if you're unable to, care for your kids, you need a larger organization for that. I think a church is more willing to help a family than a vagabond.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read the Didache I gave you? Didache?
Oh yeah, I haven't read it, no, but I had listened to it in the past.
Okay, so do you remember the part where it says, hold your arms until it sweats in your palm?
Huh. That sounds familiar, but...
Right. It's saying, don't be a stooge. Don't just give and give till it bleeds. Give strategically because this is yours. You earned it.
Yes.
Now, don't just...
And that's the problem with when the government takes over social work, then it's there, to them it's tax money, whatever. It's not theirs.
You could say the same thing of some of these preachers that are out there getting planes to fly to Africa.
And a lot of the so-called mission work and stuff, that's more about having an experience than whatever. But
I think there's something to that. I agree. I once had a pastor tell me the reason why they go to Mexico and build sheds had nothing to do with the Mexicans. They wanted their kids to learn the value of hard work. And I'm like, so you're telling these kids they're going to go down and build buildings for the people building houses up here? Ridiculous.
Well, it's probably for their families that they've left behind in Mexico.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Well,
so, do you want to say anything more on that one, or next?
Next stanza there.
Yeah, a family to nurture. So that's where your job is a...
Well, a man that's settled with kids is probably not going to burn down the Capitol. But if you have a lot of angry young people,
Yeah.
Antifa,
BLM.
yes. I mean, this is not good.
No.
Um,
And then you have just loners who end up going crazy.
well, I'm a loner that hasn't gone crazy because I had the church
Yeah.
to be around.
So an ark to build. So that's like, hey, there's some provision you're making for the future or a bad eventuality. You're looking around you and being aware of what's going on and preparing for it.
I guess it depends on your local environment. I mean, when I was in Bali, Indonesia, all family compounds had walls, and they had defensible entry points. Because sometimes the countryside goes nuts.
Right.
And when you don't want to be a part of that, you want to protect your family. And so every family had a compound.
Right.
And in the compound they had the women and children can go anywhere there. And when they went out, they were escorted. And it wasn't a Muslim thing. It was, it's a local thing. And when I was there in the 90s, it was opening up. People were becoming better because they had more.
Right.
A lot more. So when there's more to be had, good people kind of lower their guard, become more trustworthy. But when things get tight, that's when hackles go out and guard goes up. And when you're in that situation, whether you're in South America or Indonesia, you got to protect what's yours. Otherwise, somebody will come and take it.
Yep. So an ark to build and then a land to conquer. That's an interesting one.
Well, look at it symbolically. A land to conquer. Well, when you're running a business, you're conquering new territory. Because you're opening up a whole sector of an economy.
Right.
So
Makes
if
sense.
you can think of something, I don't know, hydroponic gardening or whatever, do something that is yours.
Right.
Even if it's a side hustle or a YouTube channel.
Yes. Here we go. We're conquering land here.
Yes.
Even though it's digital, we're still doing it.
Yes.
All right, the next one is a ladder to heaven to build. So the way I interpret that is that he's just saying, figure out your relationship with God and make sure.
I don't think so. I think
Okay, how do you interpret it?
I interpret it like this. Jesus said, do the things I tell you to do first, and all these other things will be given to you.
Yep.
If that isn't true now, I mean, we have whole of Western culture about putting people under good morals and laws. Whether they could follow it or not is inconsequential. The ideal is there.
Yeah.
And we've done so much good work that someone like me with my issues can live. Good job. That's all of you.
Yeah.
Because I can only live if there's surplus. No surplus, nobody's going to let me live. All I can expect is a quick death if somebody's willing to do it. That's a dark view of it. That's how I feel.
Well, and I mean, hopefully at that certain point, churches would step up as well to fill that gap.
The way I look at it is this. I think a lot of people are supporting the church out of the surplus of their largesse. And when the government takes 30%,
That's a big part of the problem is like but okay, let's say the government's so wasteful.
well, let's get off that.
Anyway,
I'm sorry to bring,
Um,
I think we're
so
done with your quote, aren't we?
There's one left.
Okay.
The utter, this is a very Jordan Peterson thing to say, and the utter terrible catastrophe of life to face stalwartly in truth, devoted to love and without fear.
If you're a nihilist, that's how you look at life. And if you're a Buddhist, all life is suffering. So the question is, what are you going to do about it?
Well, it's kind of interesting because earlier today I listened to a podcast and they were talking about suffering in the Christian ministry specifically, but there's good application to just talking about, hey, suffering is a reality in this world, and how, like you said, how you deal with it.
Well, I think a lot of people think it's okay to just furrow their brow. Wow, that's really rough. I'll be praying for you. Ta-ta. And they go to Applebee's and have a nice mojito and, wow, things are good now.
Well, I think how you deal with suffering on a personal level is...
Well, I think... Go ahead.
You know, it's really important. I think a lot of people, what our culture tells us is we shouldn't have to suffer at all. And so if you're suffering, we're going to give you a medicine to fix it. So that's the whole idea, and I bought into that for a long time, is, well, if I'm going through some pain or anything, then I should tell my doctor and have him help me.
And you get the opiates or whatever you want.
Exactly.
It's a damn candy store.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so let me ask you this on the general idea of suffering. I think there are two ways you should look at. Number one, analyze where the suffering's coming from. Because in my life, I have people that do things for me, and they do a lot for me. The problem is they don't like it when I say they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So the question is my suffering my fault or somebody else's fault? And when it's my fault, how should I respond? And when it's somebody else's fault, how should I respond?
Yeah, well, differently. There's that. Yeah.
Right. And so what I'm trying to get at is that we have people that all their problems are somebody else's fault. And we have some people who...
Well, I don't know if you could say that about anyone.
What?
I don't think you can say that about anyone.
It's all... No, I'm saying they approve.
Oh, they say it's everyone.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
And then there are people that are doormats. Oh, dude. And I think a balanced approach is appropriate.
Yeah.
By case basis. I don't think people are doing that.
To varying degrees, maybe, but yeah.
Well, because there's too much heuristic. Anyway.
I think it's better, that sort of thing is better addressed by people who are in church versus people outside of the church. Yeah, I can see your point.
What?
About having one of those two extremes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, people in the church are the same in a certain regard, but...
Well, in church, it's people with all the problems of personality issues of the outside world, except here we're all saying we hold these truths to be sacrosanct.
Right.
And this should give us something to relate on.
Right.
But that isn't always the case. And so for me, I know that people go to church for a wide range of reasons, and not all of it's from salvific reasons.
Yeah.
All right, what's our next one?
So we have this portion of the video that talks about different reasons people are coming and what's a proper reason, I guess, to church.
Well, let's take a look. Play.
And together we'll aim up. And here's a message to those young men skeptical about such things. What else do you have? You can abandon the churches in your cynicism and disbelief. You can say to yourself, narcissistically and solipsistically, the church does not express what I believe properly. Who cares what you believe? Why is this about you? Do you even want it to be about you? What if it was about others? What if it was about your duty to the past and to the broader community that surrounds you in the present? What if it was incumbent upon you and vital to your health and willingness even to live, to rescue your dead father from the belly of the beast, where he has always resided, and to restore him to life? Once again, to the churches, Protestant.
Okay,
so you got any thoughts before I go off?
Yeah, well,
because I don't think he's wrong.
Well,
in a psychological way.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of, people who might find excuses to not go to church that are, like you said, based more in narcissism and wrong ideas about why you need to go to church.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How many people do you think are in the church that are philosophical atheists? That when they come in, they sing their songs, wave their hands, and then when the pastor preaches, they do all they can not to look distracted. Because it's just wah, 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 wah. And then when they come out, good, that was an excellent sermon preach, knocked it out of the park. How many pastors really want to find out what's going on with their congregation?
Well, I don't know about a typical church, but I think I don't think there's many people like that in our church.
Well,
or I can't. Well, as far as people that actually are members,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But all I can say is that he's making the case that even if you're a philosophical atheist, go to church. It's a good discipline.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
I think one of the other points we talked about before the video was people who want to find the perfect church that matches with all of their theological
that was
beliefs.
Another thing we were going to bring up. Yeah?
Yeah. So,
there is no ideal church.
Exactly.
And where I'm at is, Lord, give me a church I can stomach.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at. Because
if that's the bar, I guess that's the bar.
Well, and the other thing, you're not going to be best friends with everybody.
No.
There's always going to be a clique, and the best thing I think you can do is find your tribe within the tribe.
Yeah.
Because I think there are lots of people that take that when the Bible says that the church is a family, I think you need to look at it as a very extended family.
Yeah.
Because people have families.
Right.
And they serve them first.
Yeah.
I think
and you're not going to be equally close to every different family
right.
member, but you're still members of a family.
Extended family.
Still family.
We might call it a tribe.
Okay, that works.
Yeah. All right. Well,
you want to wrap it up there? Land the plane?
Yeah. I'll let you close it out. This is your show too.
How do you do it? You say, okay.
My name.
Well, no, hold on. please, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions or comments. Yeah, and I am Sardine, and this is the Atypical Cripple.
See you on the next round.
Adios.